A few of the points that I'd like to talk about there to fill you guys in on as to why I was so interested in this. The FEMA Appendix C that I'm referring to here was basically a metallurgical study. There were 2 or 3, I forget exactly, beams that were found in the debris pile that had they'd been melted. There were sections of them that clearly showed melting. They had sections that were thinned away, and there were actually holes through them, and some of the ends were just melted away or even possibly evaporated away. When I started to look into the report, basically what the metallurgists and scientists at WPI found was that the steel was being attacked intergranularly, preferentially, by a eutectic mixture of iron, iron oxide, and iron sulfide. That's basically what thermite can do. Normal thermite will produce iron, iron oxide in the molten form, but if you add sulfur to it, which is what's called thermate in the trade business, you just add a bit of sulfur, it also produces iron sulfide. And that again lowers the melting point through forming a eutectic. And it just basically makes the steel melt at a lower temperature. So instead of having to bring the steel up to 1500 centigrade, you can slice through it with material that's at 900 or 1000 degrees centigrade. So when I saw that in the FEMA report, you know, that there was actually melted steel, and jet fuel under normal conditions, or really it's just the most aberrant of conditions that can produce those types of temperatures, it's just not what should have happened inside of the World Trade Centers from the fires that I saw, that any steel should have been melted whatsoever. And when I saw those pictures and the work that they did, they talked about it that one of the comments that the professors made was that the melting of the steel could have happened either before the buildings fell or it could have happened after the buildings fell. They weren't really sure, but they left both conjectures open. My contention, based on finding thermite residue in the dust, is that it happened before. It didn't happen after in the fires that ensued in the rubble pile afterwards. It's all the characteristics of the microspheres, along with what I see in the attack of the beams that were actually found, tell me that thermite was involved in melting those steel beams.
And as you know, he wasn't the first physicist or engineer. As a matter of fact, there are over 1,200 now, architects and engineers, who demand a new 9/11 investigation. But you don't see that on your manipulated mainstream media, or do you? Is it important to you that licensed engineers, physicists, architects all scream and yell that this is not the truth? We, the people, are being lied to. Yeah. But if I said it, you probably wouldn't believe me. But I find a chemical engineer who'll stand up and who's brave and says, hey, I'm not afraid to ask questions because it doesn't make sense. You viewers, when you look at the clock and Sharon, remember, when it comes to the science, it doesn't make sense. Okay, here we go. A little bit of other thing for you. Here, just so you see the picture, here's a gentleman, Mr. Farmer, who happened to be on the 9/11 Commission. Remember the 9/11 Commission? For 14 months, Bush wouldn't investigate or make a commission, or, you know, they wouldn't investigate 9/11. So then they try to appoint a commission. And the first person they chose was Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger. Do you remember anything about Kissinger? Yeah, he was the one who was supposed to hunt down Nazis. First off, foreign-born, gets in the U.S. Army, supposed to hunt down Nazis. I guess you forget Operation Paperclip, where we brought the Nazis over here. Oh, I'm sorry, Wernher von Braun didn't work for NASA and the missile programs. No, and he was the only one. There was roughly thousands, but where I'm going is they tried to appoint Kissinger. Yeah, you remember Kissinger back in the Nixon days, don't you? You remember Kissinger. Kissinger who's what? Who's wanted for war crimes in specific countries. So that was the first guy they tried to appoint. But here's a guy. Let's go back to Mr. Farmer. Here's a man who was on the 9/11 Commission. What's interesting about him, he was the Attorney General of New Jersey. So some kind of a law guy, right? He also happens to be the Dean of Law at where? At Rutgers in New Jersey. And what does he say? Show him. He says that the Pentagon lied to us. He says that the military lied to the 9/11 Commission. But you're supposed to believe it, because that was an emotional thing like shock and awe, to get you to believe that it was guys in caves, not girls in caves, not midgets in caves, okay? Not monkeys in caves, not aliens, Okay? But it was guys in caves, and they were bearded, and they had turbans. Rather interesting, huh? But when you found out that the bin Ladens and the Bushes vacationed together, you weren't supposed to worry about that. When you found out that the bin Laden family got to fly out of the country when you and I, American citizens, were not allowed to fly, you weren't supposed to worry about that. When you found out that they lied to you about the phone calls, when they lied to you about just about everything about 9/11, you're supposed to still wrap the flag around yourself, go over and go, prosecute wars based on lies. Maybe that works for you. I don't think it works too well for your family, though, and I don't think it works too well for the nation, let alone economically bankrupting, but morally and spiritually bankrupting us. That's a whole other story. Here's a little bit for you. And in this, you're going to get to listen to Jesse Ventura, who was a United States Navy SEAL. That's sea, air, and land. He was a special demolitions expert, trained by our government, did it for a living, was in Vietnam. Okay? And also you're going to listen to Alex Jones, and then the best part is, with this new footage from 9/11, you'll get to listen to 3 firemen who came out of the building after the planes were impacted. They were already staging in the lobby to go up and fight the fires in the towers when the tower lobbies exploded. Now, William Rodriguez said there was explosions. Now you have firemen, and just think, NIST didn't allow you to see this because they needed you, okay, to get emotionally wrapped around the thought that it was Muslims that attacked you, yet they haven't shown you any evidence. The only evidence they show is the passport they picked up off the ground. Don't even get me going. See, most people didn't investigate 9/11. Even you, the viewer, probably hasn't spent that much time. And you probably think, oh, what a heretic or what a bad person I am, because I'm calling into question the lies we were told. Yeah, I will call into question lies. And I'll publish the lies. And the best thing is, you don't have to believe me. Let's listen to the firemen. Let's listen to Jesse Ventura. Let's listen to Alex Jones. Let's see what you know and see what you don't know.
You'd get down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails. Like you're in a foundry.
Yeah, like lava.
Like lava.
On a volcano.
Wasn't a lot of screaming.
All
Wasn't
right.
a lot of yelling.
Now, Governor, here's the key before we get to the new clips. There are literally 5 terabytes, thousands of these clips, and it's not somebody who's hurt or it's not a fire. The clips that NIST for 9 years has blocked, but under a lawsuit by the International Group on 9/11 Studies, they've been able to get these videos, and all the videos are firemen talking about molten steel, bombs, are firemen talking about all this incredible stuff. I mean, is that not evidence of a cover-up right there?
Well, obviously it is, because you notice that they don't include that in their report at all, do they?
No, they
when
worked
NIST comes out, NIST has all this information in their possession, and yet their report chooses to ignore it and not even mention it.
And spend 9 years blocking lawsuits to get it.
Yeah, and now how much more simple can it be for someone out there to look at that and go, something's rotten in Denmark here?
Yeah, they didn't release a bunch of nonsensical video. The stuff they released is the FBI director of New York talking to firemen who say bombs were going off, and he said, yeah, I saw the bottom of the building blow out.
And why in their report wouldn't they write something to say that these people were crazy and wrong?
And
shouldn't they have at least addressed it and said, well, we had many reports of firemen and officials saying bombs were going off, and then give an explanation as to why these people were wrong?
Well, we not only have this new video that just came out yesterday, as they call for the video, of the FBI director in New York saying this, we have the local newscast that day saying the FBI director of the city said they're looking at bombs. So we have it from both angles. This is all new, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the first new clip that they released 2 weeks ago, culling through these. This is a group of firemen with blood pouring out of their faces who have been seriously hurt. One guy's got his face all smashed in. And he looks up, and they're talking about how after the planes hit, they were going in, getting ready to go up, and there were explosions in the lobby. And then one fireman looks up and says, we got to get out of here. There could be bombs in all these buildings. Here's this new video that NIST didn't want any of you, including Governor Jesse Ventura, to see. Here it is.
What happened? We was in an explosion. We was in the lobby and the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible.
It's like hell. You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Is that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the
Yeah, definitely secondary explosion. But we was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on the way upstairs, the whole thing blew. And it just collapsed on everybody inside the lobby.
Similar to the first tower coming down, secondary?
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second one it was terrible. Then there was a third one too after that one.
Third explosion after that?
That's right. Everybody was inside the building, waiting to go upstairs, and they just let loose. Everything just let loose inside the building.
So what you told me is that there was the plane or whatever hit the building, then a secondary explosion.
It was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And they exploded. The whole lobby collapsed on the lobby inside.
And it's just mayhem after that?
Just man, everybody tried to make their way out.
Just trying to help all the brothers get out.
A lot of people trapped inside.
I was sitting in the Brooklyn Navy Yard across from Brooklyn. We watched the first explosion. As we're watching the buildings, we saw a black, very large airplane fly right into the second building. It came out of the south, right in front of our eyes. Just, it was so surreal, like a movie set. Second and third explosions also, right? We were in the building for the third one. It collapsed. I was on this drive here for the other one.
people don't understand. There may be more. Any one of these buildings can blow up. This ain't done yet.
How does this?
This is going to top, and this is
all right. Now there he is saying this ain't done yet, and that was shot at about 12 noon. He was right. 5.5 hours later, they weren't done yet. Governor, you just heard 3 firefighters, one of them senior, saying bombs going off, explosions in the South and North Tower.
And what's unique about it, you also heard them say they were in the prepared area getting ready to go up. So that clearly lets you know this is before any of the buildings collapsed at all, that these other explosions were going on. Now, how can the government sit and say that they ignore this type of testimony?
Well,
how come there's nothing written about this in any of the reports? Clearly that shows that what they've told us is just plain BS.
Kind of windy, my dissertation, but what did you think now that you hear the firemen going, there's bombs in the buildings, we got to get out of here, there could be bombs in all these buildings. And sure enough, he was right, because 5 hours later, Building 7, the building on my shirt. And what's important about all this is if you find explosive cutting charges made specifically for melting steel, and you look at the concrete that turned into powder, these buildings didn't collapse, they were exploded, they were demolished, they were demoed. And if that's the case, then that means the story they told us is not true. And the question is, why did they lie to you? Who benefited? For you Latin teachers out there, cui bono? Who benefited? Did some rag turban head, Muslim fanatic? Once again, none of that added up because they were having lap dances. They were funded. They were staying at U.S. military bases. They were staying with FBI agents in their rooms. Able Danger. Look up Able Danger. Time for some homework, okay? Maybe you want to take physics. Do some physics homework. Gee, what do you need to fall at free fall speed? How about no resistance? Geez, that's interesting, huh? What do you need? Don't even get me going. You don't want to get me going. I'm trying to get you to consider, to think for yourself. There's a possibility you were misled many times. 6 of the 10 9/11 commissioners said that the thing was a sham and a cover-up. It's not me. I'm not here to, bring you gloom and doom. I'm here to hopefully restore our republic, our constitutional republic, instead of allowing the tyranny, in the police state and Department of Homeland Security, that's all based on fictitious lies. At least when it comes to the perpetrators, because I don't believe guys in caves did it, and I think it's laughable, the fact that people even buy that story. Why don't you take a look at the Pentagon when it was hit? Tell me how you fit a 757 through there. Then send a Department of Homeland Security over to the TV show, and he can show me how you can fit the plane through the itty-bitty little hole. Then he can tell me where the wings went, where the engines went. I used to shoot planes down for a living. I'm an ex-General Dynamics employee. It's laughable, the lies they get you to buy. So, anyway, sounded like I was mean and mad up there. But I want you to, let's bounce back to what's this foreigner doing in fatigues on the streets of New York City saying, nothing information. Nothing information.
Building's going to collapse. Nothing information.
And it's always dangerous.
Building's going to collapse. Nothing information. Building's going to collapse. Nothing information. Building's going to collapse. Nothing information.